the Fish Creek, and he had mentioned that in Senator Uyghur's update that he had had conversations with city officials. That nephew then stated that he thinks staff is already working on this. And then Mr. Nephew stated that he was suggesting council direction for, 1, a report on the status of what COPAR is doing, 2, if COPAR is open to an extension, and 3, what staff ideas on possible strategies for acquisition. And then I added that I was also interested in whether or not if the prices had gone down on the property. And Mr. Nephew added another thing about input on the realistic chance of state funding. And then I asked, where is the bill at? And Mr. Nephew said, I don't know if there is a bill. And then Jenny Gaynor said that the language is being crafted, it's not done, the staff will report back. Mr. Nephew, I think it was, said that it would also be nice to have a written confirmation of an extension from COPAR or a letter of intent. Now keep in mind this was March 9th, 2009. And then Mr. Antonin said, okay, well, it sounds like the consensus is for staff to do a report back to the council, and then we will have an opportunity to craft the language. Okay, so then I went back and I looked at the March 23rd meeting. I'd like this on the record too. This was then in council presentations, and I talked about Senate File 1564, and Mr. Nephew rightly so mentioned to me that that was a bill that was not for the metro area, okay, and that really that there's other bills, and that I was asking and saying that the citizens are looking for clarification. And then Mr. Nephew said that Lilly and Slawick are co-authoring a bill for metropolitan grant money. And then I asked if it's competitive, and Mr. Nephew said, I assume so. Nephew then said, in the terms of the bill that Peter, I'm assuming Peter Fisher from Parks and Rec, was talking about at the Parks Commission meeting, it has not been introduced yet. Now this was March 23rd. He said Representative Slawick was just looking for comments. Mr. Nephew indicated he talked to Mr. Konikioa, and he mentioned that he had made some suggestions on the legislation. Mr. Nephew then stated that he was not up to speed on the introduction, and then I agreed that I wasn't either and asked for more information to be put on the city website when introduced, that the citizens want to know what it says and what number it is and how to find it. And then Mr. Konikio said, and this was the March 23rd meeting, that as of that date, it had not been introduced yet, but he concluded by saying, 1, the staff will put the information about the bill and when it's introduced on the city website, and that 2, he will provide updates to the city council. And then ironically at that same meeting, my next agenda item was talking about the Star Tribune article on Lakeland Construction Finance LLC. And I have looked on the city website, by the way, and what is posted there is House File 2054, not House File 2055, just to let you know that that's what's posted on the website. So, but what I found was very ironic is that on December 23rd, when I brought up the thing about Lakeland Construction Finance LLC, Mr. Konikio said that yes, staff was talking about with regard to Ritchie Place. He mentioned that the staff was closely monitoring the situation with the Lakeland Construction Finance LLC and that they had consulted with Mr. Cantrude. But what I found so interesting is that, you know, we had our meeting March 9th talking about COPAR, wondering what the status was of COPAR. On March 4th, COPAR there was a sheriff's sale. The complete property has been foreclosed on. And I'm wondering, when was the council going to be told this?
Which property?
All of them. That's what I'm telling you. And guess who the finance company is? Lakeland Construction Finance, LLC, the very same company that's in receivership to the Bank of Scotland. And the Bank of Scotland, by the way, has been, I understand, perhaps taken over by England. So one of the things that is very important in all of this, and that's why I really wished that the whole council had been involved, that the staff had been involved with what we were doing, that they had done the report they said they were going to do, because maybe this could have been discovered before me just finding out about it, just only by my 6 hours of work on all of this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I've got some documentation that I would like to pass out, because I know the rest of the council, you don't have time to do all this stuff. I know that. So I just want to pass it along so you have it, because the reason this is important, and there is a reason why this is very important, is because under the developer's agreement, our developer's agreement with Copar says something that is very, very important. And people may think that none of this matters, but it really does. Under our developer's agreement with Copar, it says that they are in default of their developer's agreement if there is a breach of the developer warranties. And by the way, Copar, all their entities here in Minnesota, none of them are in good standing with the Secretary of State. Not one of them. Not one of them. They're inactive. They're not in good standing. And so you couldn't be buying anything from them right at this point anyway, because they're not in good standing. And they don't, and the redemption period for this is in about 3 weeks. So in about 3 weeks, Copar has to come up with $13 million. Because another thing that nobody told us about is that Copar refinanced this property in 2006 for $9.7 million when they had just bought it in 2005 for a little over $7 million. So the developer warranties that they have breached is that whether or not they have the legal capacity, the right power and legal capacity or authority to enter or perform their obligations, they're not in good standing with the Secretary of State. No default. The developer is not in default of any lease, contract, or agreement to which it is a party. It's in total breach of its mortgages, not only with this company for the land in South Maplewood, but all the properties in Hudson, in all these other places. But then also present compliance with the laws. And it says the developer has complied with and is not in violation of applicable federal, state, or local statutes, laws, or regulations, including but not limited to, and blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on. But of course, remember, some time ago, it was brought to our attention that they had not paid their withholding taxes for some employees in Wisconsin, and that was like about $8,000. Well, now it's about $21,000. So the thing that I am concerned about, and this little chart that I have that I've handed out to the council, and I think it really, it shows where the concern is, because one of the things that President Obama told all the mayors, and this is very serious, is that any kind of financing, money rather, that you're using, whether or not if it's from taxes or stimulus money, that you have to be using it wisely. And you see, if this is an opportunity that one of these things that, well, here's the other thing too. I've got that article. Remember that was the wasteland article that I had that was